The most influential civilization of the world is ancient Greece, as it represents the cradle of modern Western civilization. It is no coincidence that it has, over the years of its existence, produced many philosophers and intellectuals, such as Socrates, Plato, Homer, Aristotle, and that's just to name a few. But out of them stands Diogenes, perhaps the most controversial figure of his time, known for his unconventional way of life and the philosophy that he taught, called cynicism. In this video, we'll be going both through his life and the teachings of this ancient school of thought. Not much is known of Diogenes' early life, but that he was born in Sinope, a Greek Ionian colony on the Black Sea coast of Asia Minor, in the year 412 before Christ, as the son of Hysias, a banker. He too would follow his father's footsteps into the banking business. During these years, he would get himself expelled from Sinope when it was discovered that he had debased the city's currency, defacing the coins, thus leaving them worthless as legal tender. The motives of these actions are believed to be not financial, but rather political, as at the time the city of Sinope was being disputed between pro-Persian and pro-Greek factions. In Athens, he would make it his life mission to challenge and ridicule societally established norms, explaining that the people merely relied on customary interpretations rather than what was true. There he found himself attracted to the teachings of Antisthenes, a former student of Socrates, whose philosophy valued virtue over pleasures and promoted an ascetic way of living, a man who said that he'd rather be mad than feel pleasure. So when Diogenes asked him to be his tutor, Antisthenes proceeded to beat the living hell out of him with his staff. But the careless vagabond responded, "Strike, for you will find no wood hard enough to keep me away from you, as long as I think you've something to say." This clever sentence would earn him Antisthenes' mentorship, and would help shape Diogenes' own philosophical teachings that would surpass his tutor both in reputation and fame in the grand scheme of history. Diogenes would follow the school of thought called cynicism, or a group of homeless people that argue that humans are reasoning animals and that the purpose of life is to gain virtue, reject pleasures, social recognition, conformity, and live simply in harmony with nature, meaning rejecting modernity and embracing tradition in the 4th century before Christ. The name derives from the ancient Greek word kynikos, meaning dog-like, and like all things it would be eventually Latinized by the Romans into cynici, from which the modern term is derived. The adjective of dog-like is something Diogenes would take to the extreme by taking shits in the public, pissing and spitting on people whenever he had something important to say. But after being taken by pirates in Athens, he would be sold to slavery to a Corinthian, who upon asking the itemless man his trade got the reply that he knew no trade but that of governing men, and that he wished to be sold to a man who needed a master. Upon hearing this, Xeniades, the slave owner, immediately set him free. Finally, he would settle in the market square of Corinth, where he would live in a giant ceramic wine barrel, even meeting Alexander the Great, the king of Macedon. The story goes that whilst in Corinth, Alexander asked the famous urinator of men what the king of kings could do for Diogenes. Diogenes replied, "Move, stand out of the sunlight." Alexander, impressed by the bold spirit of this man, publicly declared, "If I were not Alexander, then I would be Diogenes." Upon hearing this, Diogenes went for a double whammy, saying, "If I were not Diogenes, I would still wish to be Diogenes." Finally, Alexander would ask the public defecator what he was doing. Diogenes, whilst looking at a pile of human bones, said, "I am searching for the bones of your father, but cannot distinguish them from those of a slave." If this mindset sounds familiar, it is because Diogenes was the teacher of another cynic by the name of Crates of Thebes, and Crates was the teacher of Zeno of Citium, who invented Stoicism, and in turn influenced Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, a very prominent Stoic whose teachings are used by YouTubers to clickbait you and self-promote themselves. Anyway, Diogenes had beef with Plato, and would regularly challenge his teachings. One example is that Plato giving a description of a man as a featherless biped. Diogenes, upon hearing that, decided to test his theory out by plucking a chicken of all his feathers and throwing it into Plato's academy, saying, "Behold, I've brought you a man," thus creating the first ever shitpost. The academy later added with broad flat nails to the definition. Diogenes would die at the ripe old age of 89 in the year 323 before Christ, at the time when the average life expectancy was just 35, which proves that purpose will keep both the body and the mind going. There are many theories speculating his death, such as him dying of an untreated dog wound, him eating a raw octopus, but the best one by far is him holding his breath and self-suffocating. His final wish was for his body to be thrown in nature so that it could return to the earth. He even died on the same day Alexander did. And from this story we can learn that not all that glitters is gold, that there is more to life than just pleasure. And with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, you can support the channel by liking, sharing and subscribing. And until next time, goodbye.